Happy holidays, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Holy cow. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, all the things. Oh my goodness, it's the week before Christmas. I don't know about you guys, I am pulling my hair out with Christmas shopping this year. I don't know why it gets harder and harder every year. But we are going to have fun tonight. We're going to have a good conversation, and we're going to break away from the Christmas, shopping craziness to talk about the housing market and specifically where things are shifting, just to keep you guys updated. A new report came out with the stats for November. There are some changes as the market is indeed slowly shifting in the way of more inventory coming on the market. More inventory on the market means downward pressure on home prices, which may not be great news for sellers, but is definitely good news for home buyers. So we're going to dig into that article that kind of goes over which states and what is going on that might cause that, and who is and which states are going to be next. So make sure you vote in the poll, because I've got a running poll here to see who is right on that, and I'm going to be having some giveaways in the near future. So we'll have some some reward or something on the poll. I don't know. I'll figure it out. I'm going to try to change things up a little bit in 2025, but we're going to do that. A little housekeeping before I bring on my one of my very favorite guests here to join me in conversation. I'm going to go to my checklist, feel like Jimmy Fallon with the checklist, because if I don't write it down. But first and foremost, next week I will not be doing a live stream Christmas Eve. What I will be doing even better, more exciting, Jackie Baker and Baker and I have teamed up a lot on our live streams. We are doing a Christmas special next Monday, 7 p.m. It's going to be fun. We're going to be doing trivia. We're going to be doing prizes. We have legit prizes that we will be giving away. And we might do a little bit of recap on housing market stuff, but it's just going to be a fun wrap up the year live stream, Jackie and I. So that's a special, our Christmas special next Monday, not Tuesday, next Monday at 7 p.m. And then lastly, make sure you jump on the, if you have questions, at any time, you have the hotline. You call that hotline and leave your name, where you're calling from, and your question, and I'll feature your question live in your voice with your audio, with a little bit of fun animation on an upcoming live stream. So jot that number down, 508-591-3228. You can call that anytime, leave your name, number, and question, and I'll answer your question live. So enough of me jabbering. I'm going to bring on my guest, who has been on this live stream before. You guys know him as Mr. Clark, the realtor. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. How are you, Jen? Thanks for having me.
Very, very good. Oh, here we go. You know what? I got too many buttons. Here we go. A little cheering. I got trigger figure with all these buttons. I'm like a kid in a candy store with all the different effects and all the things. But how you doing? You're Clark, the realtor's coming in from Atlanta, Georgia area. So
yes,
things are popping down there, and but definitely warmer than here. For the last couple, trending anyways. Not today, but particularly, but yesterday. But anyways, things are popping down there.
Yeah, things are definitely moving down here. Our market is softening a little bit, but people are still buying.
Yeah, it's amazing that, in all the years I've been doing this, the market never, even though you'd think, oh, who's going to buy during the holidays? Who's going to move during the holidays? Who's going to move during, the week of Christmas or people do. It slows down a lot, but people absolutely, they don't disappear. The market doesn't stop. So, hey, David Matney, he's here first.
Hey.
You know what?
Hey
Just a
David,
shout
how
out
you
to Dave.
doing?
This year, David has been, launched this channel earlier this year, and I appreciate you, Clark the Realtor. I appreciate you being on the live stream. I appreciate David Matney tuning in, all his great questions. Thank you, my friend. 100% appreciate you. Um, let's see. Red. Hey, thanks for chiming in. There may be inventory, but the prices might not be good. Well, it definitely depends on where you're at. Definitely depends on where you're at, and it depends on how much. And we're gonna get into that, because just because there's a little bit more inventory, it may not be enough to put downward pressure on prices. It depends on what the buyer demand is currently. It may be so much buyer demand in a certain area that a little bit more inventory really isn't enough to actually make an impact on prices yet. But eventually it does. So we're going to, we want to dig into these articles, dig right into the first one.
Okay.
So this article came to, found this on Fast Company, and I think Fast Company's got some good data. I like the way that they they handle their data, the way that they dissect their data and interpret and so forth. So it says 10 states where housing market inventory just spiked back. Now, a little bit misleading because it's not all 10 states, Clark, right? It's
Yeah.
not 10
Yeah,
states,
when I
it's an
read it. Yeah.
additional few states, but we're going to get into that. It says, as housing markets across the U.S. continue to stabilize from the frenzied highs of the pandemic housing boom, active listings and inventory levels have become critical indicators of market health. Resi Club tracks that. Resi Club's a big data tracker. They track these metrics closely as they offer insights on the balance of supply and demand, which is what drives the market, right? Right, Clark?
Yep.
And what that balance might mean for future home prices. Over the past 2 years, a clear trend has emerged. Housing markets, well, this is key, right? This tells it all. Housing markets where active inventory has returned to pre-pandemic levels often experience softer home price growth or outright price declines. So right on to your point about not having enough inventory, there may be more inventory, but prices may not be good. That's one of the reasons why, right? I mean, it's because there may be more active inventory, but the inventory hasn't reached pre-pandemic levels. And I don't know about you, Clark, but I've seen the inventory levels have come, or are starting to rise, but you really don't see significant price declines, right?
Yeah.
Until you get some significant inventory. So, and we're going to get into
Yeah. That's
that in a minute. So, would you concur? Do you concur?
yeah. That's what we've been kind of noticing down here in this Metro Atlanta area, where we're getting more inventory on the market, but yet prices are staying steady. They're not really declining as much.
We're seeing the same thing. We're seeing the same thing here in Massachusetts, where it's creeping, but we're
Hmm.
still at 1.5 months supply of inventory, right?
Yeah.
And I want to get into that, explain that, because a lot of people don't understand the month supply of inventory and how that's a metric for housing health.
Hmm.
The article says, in contrast, markets where inventory remains significantly below pre-pandemic levels have generally sustained stronger price growth. Nationally, active listings increased by 26.2% between November 23 and November 24, signaling a shift toward more leverage for buyers in many areas. However, active inventory remains 16.6% below November 19 levels, and some regions continue to experience tight supply, though not uniformly across the country. So this is one of the reasons why I like Fast Company, is because of the graphics. Because I don't know about you, but I'm a visual person. To have a visual, words are words. And data, it's
Yeah.
important, but to actually see a visual helps understand better. Helps it sink in a little bit better, and definitely helps with the understanding when you have an overall. And this kind of speaks, for itself, right? I mean, you you have the amount of inventory here, and here are the targets. Like 2019 pre-pandemic, you can see the arch, and even in 2019, the thing that I would just explain is in terms of the arcs, why there's an arc to begin with, right? Is because there's ebbs and flows, regardless of the
Yep.
market, right? I mean, it's
Mhm.
there's always a big bump between March and April
Mhm.
and into like
Yep.
June, early July, right?
Mhm.
And then it kind of sinks down in July. That's normal.
Yes.
And there's a little, for here anyways, a little bump in August, September. You can see like there's usually there's overall, because the different climates and whatnot, but there's always a decline November, December, January. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I definitely agree. I agree. I think I always say during those winter months as well, it's the more serious buyer because it's less people in the market, but they're really eager to buy. So that's what I kind of notice. Even though we know in the springtime we get serious buyers too, but we get a really like defined buyer when it comes to the winter months because most people don't want to buy a house on Christmas, basically, like during the
Yeah,
holidays.
and unless there's a strong need, right? Unless there's a really really
Mhm.
strong need, you're going to have the people that have a choice, and you say, okay,
Mhm.
I'd like to do this year. They're not going to plan it for over the holidays, but
Exactly.
what we're looking at, like you can see that the drop in 2020, right? And then the 2021 just kind of floating. 2022, we got a little bit of peak, and then 2023 is a lot. We thought we were going to see a lot more, right? Than we did, and then 2024 we can absolutely see the progression. We're not there yet. We are not there yet, but we're getting there. It's a lot better than years past. So this, to me, from a home buyer's perspective, is hope, right?
Yeah.
This is good news. This is all across the board. This is the projection. This is why, when you look at the headlines in the news, and they're like, "Oh, it's this amount of percentage over last year," and you're like, "What the heck? I don't see any more houses." You know what I mean? Like, what does that mean? Well, it's like
Exactly.
it takes time, but you look at the gap
Mhm.
between each of these years, and then last year, this year, I think that's significant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We're almost there. We're almost there. We're
We're
almost
getting
at
there. We're getting there in
that
some
20
in some areas.
2017 level.
Yeah, it's gonna take some time. It's gonna take some time,
Yeah.
but it's forward. So, um, it goes on to say, and I'm gonna link all these articles in the description. So, you're watching this live stream, you want to click on this stuff and kind of dig into it a little further. You can do that. So here it says, here's how this November's total inventory active listings compared to previous years. Kind of goes into total data. Kind of that graph illustrates it, right? With the
Mhm.
progression of the data. We're getting there. Overall, 2024, you can see we've got a ways to go, but it's a upward progression, which is good.
Yep.
This right here, so this is probably this would be if you're really interested, this is the graph that you would want to click on if you're gonna watch this after the fact. You want to look at this after the fact. You click on this because you can hover over each state and see what each individual state. That's one of the things I like about this about Fast Company is how they dig into the data if it interests you. But more importantly, what we're looking at is which states, active inventory for sale and the shift between last year and this year. And, we're looking at the darker green numbers are the ones with the biggest shift, right? And you're going to see the lighter the numbers, it's very much like centralized in the lower regions, the southern regions.
Mhm.
Florida has seen one of the biggest jumps, no surprise, right? Biggest
Yep.
inventory increases initially over the past 2 years in the Southwest
Mhm.
Florida area markets. Cape. I mispronounced this when I my video earlier this year. I said Cape Coral. I understand it's not Cape Coral. You guys corrected me,
Cape
and I
Coral.
apologize. Cape Coral. See, I can say it. Cape Coral. I learn. I make mistakes, but I learn. Um, you ever do that, Clark? You ever mispronounce a region on one of your videos and
Yes. I
you're
do it
like
I do it all the time. I think it's my northern kind of accent as well. So sometimes my words or I pronounced stuff incorrectly, I
You know where the
guess.
the most challenging state for that is? California.
No, it's
It's
oh wow.
tough. It's tough. It's all those, once you get, especially when you get to the southern, when you get, when you get to the southern section of California, and there's a lot of like, I don't know, there's a lot of names I cannot pronounce. Alida, friend of mine is. Anyways, I'm gonna go down a tangent. I'm not gonna do that. So but it was just be kind to us. That's all I'm saying. Right? Like, as content creators, we're
Yes.
trying here. We're trying. Anywho, it says this combination of increased housing supply for sale, the damaged homes coming up for sale, coupled with strained demand, the result of spiked home prices, spiked mortgage rates, higher insurance premiums, higher HOAs. We've seen that. That's a big
Mhm.
problem this entire year, right? 100%, and that is what has been Florida's biggest challenge. Um,
Mhm.
it says, however, the inventory increases in Florida now expands far beyond the Southwest Florida. Markets like Jacksonville and Orlando are also above pre-pandemic. So that's new because the west coast of Florida was holding steady. Central Florida, west coast of Florida was holding steady for quite a while, whereas was more centralized to the south, the western side, right? Western west.
Mhm.
Try again, Jen. Southwest Florida. Um, but this just has to has this. This is the shift, right? This
Mhm.
is the shift, and this is one reason for this is the Florida's condo market, which we talk a
Mhm.
lot about, right? In dealing with the
Yeah.
regulations following the Surfside condo collapse in 2021, in insurance, and the effects on home insurance and HOAs. Um, so this is, this graph, another graph illustrates the active inventory for sale compared to pre-pandemic levels, and now we're going to get into like the meat. Um, so it says in August 24, and this is only 4 states, and this has been happening kind of quickly, Clark. Right? It's been
Mhm.
happening. So only four
Yes.
states had returned to surpassed pre-pandemic 2019 active inventory levels, and then in September it grew to 7. October it grew to 8, and November that number grew to 10 states: Arizona, Colorado, Florida, Idaho, Oklahoma, Oregon, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Washington. So you can see all of those states in the blue. All of those
Mhm.
states are above. So the positive numbers here are the ones that are above pre pandemic. So 2019 inventory levels. The rest are still below pre pandemic levels. Um,
Mhm.
and they're pushing, you know. Uh,
That's true.
and so I'm not going to actually reveal the answer to that question. The next, if I scroll down, it'll reveal the people probably go back on the live stream. But I have the poll that reveals the which states are next. It's actually in the article.
Oh yeah.
I'll show that in a second. But
Mhm.
what are your thoughts on
Uh,
on this progression in terms of like, you know why these specific areas?
it's kind of interesting. Of course, I don't know much about these particular markets, but just looking at the data itself, first of all, Idaho, that's very interesting. I would not have expected that.
Right?
Of course, we knew Texas because a lot of builders were down there building. Um, and so that kind of, we have more inventory down there now as far as new homes being built. So that kind of made sense. Um, Arizona, same, that made sense because they were kind of out there as well building. But
With a
Idaho, Oregon, it's some random states that I wouldn't expect it. Of course, Florida I
Tennessee.
expected too, but
That's what I mean. That is close to where you're at because
mm, mm,
you're right here, right?
yep,
In
Georgia, yep,
Georgia. So your neighbor to the north, okay.
mhm.
What would make Tennessee's inventory shoot up? It went from nine in
Oh,
2021 9,600 to 20,000 in 1 year, to
yeah.
21,000, and then it shot up to 29,000 over this year.
And it's so it's so interesting because some of these states are states in which people were running to even during like the pandemic, like a mass exodus to go to like
Mhm.
Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, Texas. So for it to kind of bounce back so quickly is interesting. I do know some people that are actually leaving Tennessee and coming to Georgia still,
Really?
whether it be Chattanooga, Nashville. Yeah, like they're still coming to Georgia. Um, so and they haven't. The last person I talked to, she was moving from Nashville, Tennessee, and she put her house on the market. I think it didn't take them that long to sell it. It went under contract maybe in like 30 days. I know people might be like, well, that's longer than what we had before as far as the pandemic time. That's still kind of fast to me.
Yep.
30-day for her to kind of get it under contract. So and then they relocated down here into Fayette County in Fayetteville in Georgia, so right below the airport. So yeah, so it's kind of interesting that Tennessee. I don't know if they're built. Maybe the home builders are building new construction out that way a little bit more, but that's pretty. That's a high percentage,
Interesting.
20%.
Well, I've got some information actually on that in a second. I'm gonna dig into. Um, Tyler says it would be interesting to see days of supply numbers. You know what? I'm going to see if I can pull that up real quick because you're absolutely correct. Or months of supply. So actually, I want to touch on that. What that is for those that are watching that may not know, like what month supply of inventory is. So when you see a month supply of inventory, an average number, it's basically what month supply of inventory is how long will it take if no new homes came on the market. The spigot was shut off, period. Absolutely zero new homes coming on the market. You have your existing homes that are ready for sale. You have your existing buyer demand. How long would it take to sell everything? Period. Absolutely everything. If everything was priced properly, everything was on the market. And a typical healthy market is between 4 and 6 months, typically. 4 to 6 in terms of the relationship between the number of buyers and how much inventory, right? We're not talking necessarily, focusing on homes that are hard to sell or whatnot. We're talking the average home, the average sale price, the average days on the market. How long would it take? And a healthy market would be like 4 to 6 months. Okay. When you're talking all these homes, the number of homes you could have, 2 months supply when we were at the height of the market, when the market was absolutely bonkers during the pandemic. I mean, you were seeing stats that were 0.5, a half a month of supply.
Yeah, no.
Um, Massachusetts, or Plymouth, I'm going to speak to Plymouth right now because that's where I'm at in Massachusetts on the South Coast.
Mhm.
We're still at 1.5 months, which is really
Wow,
low. Which is really low.
wow.
And you say, well, there's 100
Yeah,
houses on the market. Well, that's not enough to sustain the demand for what
yeah.
typically is sold
Wow.
in our town. And it's a month and a half, so it's more relevant on the health of the market, because if you could see homes come on the market like Red had mentioned earlier. If you have inventory but it's only at 2 months supply of inventory, that's not enough for downward pressure on the home prices, right?
And we're out here in Atlanta. We're at let me just take a glimpse at our system today. But we're at the Atlanta area itself, just Atlanta, the city of Atlanta. We're at 5.1 months of supply. So we're in
No
that
kidding.
kind of a balanced situation. But for some reason, people still do not want to lower their prices. I don't know. I really think
Well, you
it's
know
like
what?
a stubborn seller. Like I don't want to lower my price.
Well, so here's the thing. So I have two opinions on that. Okay, and I think it's a combination of the sellers are stuck in what happened yesterday, 6 months ago, a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
However, Clark, you and I both know it is the listing agent's job to educate the home seller. And if the home seller
Hmm.
doesn't have current data, if the home seller isn't getting correct information from the listing agent, it's not the seller's fault, it's the listing agent's fault. The listing agent, it's their responsibility to analyze this stuff, right? And know what's going on in that market. That specific
Hmm.
market is shifting. Mr. Seller, I
Yep.
know I talked to you 2 months ago and this is where we're at, but over the course of the last two
Mhm.
months, in our month supply of inventory is rising, It's more competitive. I know we had talked about this price, but this is where your value is today. What do
Yep.
you want to do? Oh, I want to list it at the
You're right.
price for 2 months ago. Mr. Seller, you're the captain of the ship. However, I have to make sure you
Mm-hmm.
understand we put it on the market, it likely will not sell. And you put a house on that's
Mm-hmm.
overpriced on the market, that is the kiss of death. All you're going to do is potentially have a longer period of time, which means
Yep.
you'll end up having to reduce the price and it'll be too late. Now you're chasing the market. So,
Yep.
yes, there could be a situation where the listing agent is telling the seller the data and the seller
Mm-hmm.
is making that executive
Not
decision
listening.
and not listening.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of times it's not the seller's fault. I think the
Yeah.
seller
Yeah. I was
is
just
not getting proper, you know, data from their listing
guidance.
agent. Um,
Yeah, I was just in this our system today because I have I'm working with a seller come January, and I have been just tracking what's happening in his subdivision. He's outside of Atlanta. He's not actually in the city of Atlanta, out more on the outskirts, not really even the metro part of Atlanta, but just further out. And I saw a new listing pop on the market today because I just been tracking the whole subdivision in that area. And I'm like, how did they get this price point? Because it's just higher than what I told the seller just from me looking at how things are what's happening in his subdivision, also in the
yep.
area. So I'm just like, this is interesting. I actually want to call the agent and just ask them, but I'm like, am I overstepping my boundaries? Just like, hey, how did you get this number?
Well, the
But
proof will be in the pudding when it, if it goes under contract or if it doesn't, and that's the thing that we
yeah,
do, right? Is watch to see how the market reacts. If you have a
yeah,
listing that goes on the market and it's substantially higher than what you have your house on the market, right? The thing to do is to not react when it goes on the market because it hasn't sold yet. If
exactly.
it goes under contract, lickety split, then it's like, okay, let's find out what is there something about that house that is satisfying a particular demand in a market, and maybe
Hmm.
the listing price, your expectations before you put it on the market is such that, oh, maybe we need to start a little higher. But if you have your house already on the market, right? Excuse me. If you have your house already on the market and another house comes on the market that's higher, and that house goes under
Hmm.
contract before yours, I say you take a step back and take a good hard look at your house and say, okay, so why? Because it's not.
Hmm.
I don't care who. I don't care who the listing agent is. Listing agents do not control the market. Listing agent can't sell an
Yep.
overpriced house. They do not have a magic
Exactly.
wand to be like, I'm so great. I can sell anything and I will make you more money because I can have this magical marketing thing that'll make the buyers pay more. No. That's that's BS.
Exactly.
That's BS. That's just not true, right? It's just not true because
Yeah,
the,
it's
the
not true.
the
No,
seller the
market.
seller doesn't control what it sells for. The
Mhm.
listing agent doesn't control. The seller does because they can
Yep.
say no, but the
Hmm.
buyer's the one that comes to the table and says, I want to buy it or I don't. And if your house hasn't sold
Exactly.
yet, then you got to figure out why. And it might be
Why?
condition and price. Like if your house is maybe a little bit
Yep.
less condition, maybe that other house maybe priced a little bit more was in much better condition. Those are the things. But anyways,
Yeah.
that's my TED talk. Hugh says, "What's the number from Maryland?" So Maryland, where are we at? Maryland, Pennsylvania. Where are you? Way down here. Da, 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 da. Where is? I am not good. Guys, don't judge me on my geography.
You
I am
passed it. You passed
terrible.
it. Go back to your right.
All right, you know what I'm gonna do
Right underneath
here?
of
I
Pennsylvania.
think let's see here. Magic of it's so too much. Oh, you know what? The pop-ups are just kind of aggravating me a little bit. Okay, so that's Delaware. There we
There it is, right
there it
there.
is.
Right.
So Maryland, 40 negative, 42.7%. Yeah, way to go. That's a way to go.
Yeah.
It's jumping. I mean, it's moving from, I mean, it's interesting. Look at that from 22 to 23, almost very marginal increase in inventory. And there was a jump from 22 to
Mhm.
24, which is kind of what we were talking about earlier, right? So that
Yep.
that jump kind of follows suit with what's happening across the country, which is there's a bigger jump in inventory from last year to this year
Mhm.
versus 22 to 23. So it's getting there, but Maryland's got a ways to go.
I
Got a
think a lot
ways
of
to go.
people, like they kept saying over and over again, a lot of people were kind of scared to maybe even list their house because of the interest rates. Um,
I would
and
agree.
that
I
lock-in
would
effect.
agree. Yep.
Yeah.
I would totally agree with that. I would totally agree with that. And it'll be interesting to see. I've got some information on that. That other article that I pulled up that kind of talks about the interest rate predictions. So, some good news in from Polly.
Woo-hoo.
Let's go, Paul. Sorry. There we go. Oh, good grief.
Yes.
Polly says, "Hey, Jen Clark, our offer was accepted. Woohoo!
Yes.
I'm
Congratulations.
so happy for you. I'm so happy. I know you've been struggling. You messaged me and we've chatted privately a little bit and whatnot. So I'm so excited. Offer accepted at 57 old and bought my first house in Indiana.
That's amazing.
Thank
Congratulations,
you for
Polly.
sharing that. Thank you for sharing that because you
Yes.
know what that is, Clark. That is proof positive that you don't have to
You
be
never
30. The average age of a first time home buyer is 38
exactly.
years old. It does. That's just the average. You're
Yeah.
never,
That's what I
ever,
tell people. You're
ever
never.
it's never too late.
Yeah, I tell people you're never too old. You're never too old. It's never too late to do anything you want to do in life. Got to start somewhere in order to get
Amen.
to where you ultimately want to
You could even be 53 years old and start a YouTube channel.
do. Woo!
Let's go. No, you know what? I remember I had years and years and years ago, I had this couple, and oh boy, they were in their late 60s, and they had been lifelong renters, and they decided, you know what, we're gonna buy a house. And I sat down with them as I always did. Well, this pre-pandemic, so it was actual sitting down with someone as opposed to
Mhm.
Zoom,
Inside the
but
office.
it's a little different now. But nonetheless, I'm sitting across the table and from them, and they asked me. They said, "Are we too old? Like, will a bank even give us a mortgage? Like a 30-year mortgage at our age? We'll be dead by the time the 30 years comes. Like, why are they gonna give us a mortgage? Because like we're at this age?" And I said, well, first off, a mortgage company cannot discriminate on the basis of age.
Mhm.
So if you be
Yep.
90 and get a 30-year mortgage, they cannot not give it to you. They can't discriminate.
Mhm.
You have to qualify for it, but if you qualify, you can't you can't. They won't. And so
Mhm.
no,
Yep.
you're never too old. But I said, you know what? And so what if you do?
Mhm.
Enjoy your home for the time that you want to enjoy it until you can't be there anymore or whatever.
Mhm.
You definitely, if this is something you want to do, then hell yeah, then help you buy a
Exactly.
house. And it was amazing. And it was absolutely amazing. And it's things like that, Clark, that is just like mm, people getting over you know, adversity. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Jumping out on faith and not allowing fear to hold them down. So
Yep. Let's see here. Let me go through the comments here. Um, I'm not sure what you're asking about CPY, but maybe you can elaborate on
let's
that.
see.
Ditto Milan. Harlem Luva. Thanks for being here. What's the number for Essex County in Jersey? What's the market like listing a home? Well, I don't have that information for Essex County, but I can tell you that if we switch back, let's get rid of that. There we go. So Essex County, little old Jersey. Jersey. Where are you, Jersey?
It's so funny. It's so tiny on the map, but it's so huge when you drive through it.
It is true. It is true. So Jersey's got a long way to go Jersey's got negative 59% in inventory. So, you know, what's the market like listing a home? If you price it properly, it's going to sell. And that's across, like,
Mm-hmm.
this is the average for the state. And I'm sure that you know, every area is going to have its own nuances, and some areas are going to be more favorable than others. But I have a couple agents that I refer to in Jersey. Our good friend Jackie Baker's in North Jersey, and you
Yes.
know, I get updates all the time on how, you know, the crazy prices that it primarily, you know, because she's in North Jersey, it's so close to New York, you know, so
Mm-hmm.
that has the New York, you know, impact. But um, you know, Essex, I believe Essex County, I could be wrong. I think Essex County is down here. I don't know. But overall negative 59%, which is bonkers.
So, and it's crazy.
Bonkers,
Wow.
bonkers. So got a ways to go. Um, let's see here. MG says, I can see already the narrative next year as more inventory returns to pre pandemic levels. Housing bulls will just say that things are normalizing, no need for any reductions. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I think that it's, you know, the reductions are going to be, I think it's going to be a combination of slowed appreciation as
Mm-hmm.
downward pressure. So right now, you know, we have, you know, when we say adjustments in home prices, right? Um, and I should probably look at some. I'm going to bring up some data on that in a second, Clark, because remember I was telling you I have some median sale.
Yes.
I believe I have sales data, pricing data, but when, you know, when we're talking about home sales data or home sale values downward pressure, it's not necessarily, oh, we're going to be looking like a negative 25% from today. It just means
Mm-hmm.
that the areas that are seeing high appreciation, I'll take Massachusetts for example, or even my area, Plymouth, we're seeing still 6, 7, 8% appreciation. What that means is now it's going to be more normalized to, you know, 1%, 2%, 3% downward pressure. Still a slow appreciation, but not anywhere near where it has been. So we'll start to see
Mm-hmm.
offers below asking. And we're starting to see that now because we've got sellers
Mm-hmm.
that are clinging to yesterday's prices, you know, that are maybe like a year ago as we've had a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
inventory. So,
Yes.
what do you think? Do you concur?
Uh, yeah, I concur. Like I said, I can definitely talk about the Georgia market, the Metro Atlanta market, or like I said, our inventory on the days as far as supply, months of supply, sorry, it is rising, especially from last year this time. And the homes are sitting on the market a little longer too. So people are willing to take a little less, even though, like I said, some sellers, depending on where you're at, because everything's very local, even in Metro Atlanta. Um, the city, we have different cities, different counties. So you have some counties where they might price a home at 200 something thousand because that's a quote unquote a lower price nowadays. It might not sit on the market as long. However, if you start going above, let's say 400 something thousand, 500,000, it might sit longer. So it just depends on where you're at, where you're looking, and basically people's if they want to live at the location too. So.
Yes, 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 and yes, 110%. Um, this article, when we look at like where those areas are, you know, in that Sun Belt area, the lower southern areas, and then even like the northwest Oregon areas,
Mhm.
Idaho, those areas. It says, why are the Sun Belt and Mountain West markets seeing a faster return to pre pandemic levels than many Midwest and Northeast markets? It says, one factor is that some pockets of the Sun Belt and Mountain West experienced even greater home price growth during the pandemic housing boom, which stretched fundamentals too far beyond local incomes. Once pandemic fueled migration slowed and rates spiked, it became an issue in places like Colorado Springs and Austin. So a lot of people fled, right? There was a lot of
Mhm.
fleeing from California. And
Yep.
and a lot of them went north and in east,
Hmm.
and now those states are feeling it. It says unlike many Sunbelt housing markets, unlike many Sunbelt housing markets, many Northeast and Midwest. I'm having a time tonight, Clark. Good grief. Many Northeast and Midwest markets have lower levels of home building, which is absolutely the case. We don't have a lot of home building here. As new supply becomes available in Southwest and Southeast markets, and builders use affordability adjustments like mortgage rate buydowns to move it, it has created a cooling effect in the resale market. So the new construction, when the builders start, you know, doing these things aggressively to move their inventory, they're competing with the pre-existing homes. Now the pre-existing homes have to react by downward pressure on the home price. It says the Northeast and Midwest don't have the same level of new supply, so resale existing homes are pretty much the only game in town, and that is 100% true. We have some new construction here, but not anything
Okay.
like our neighbors to the
Like
south.
that. Yeah, we
No,
have a
and
lot down here.
yeah,
Everywhere we
you do,
turn, there's
don't
new
you? You
construction.
have like well, you've got the whole DR Horton
Yeah,
situation. I think you have some of that too,
we
right?
have D.R. Horton. Yeah, we have D.R. Horton, Lennar. Toll Brothers have made their way into Georgia market as well. We have a lot of independent builders, small builders. So we have a lot of building. Everywhere you go down here, they're building and building and building. So
Um, let's see here. Let me get this readjusted here. Da, 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 da. Uh, how would you say that? Zen Shan?
Zen
Uh,
is Zen Shane.
I am a real estate investor living in Mass, but never invest flip here. You know what? It for good reason. It's Massachusetts is not a great place. There's those home prices are just it's too hard. The home prices are too
Too
high
expensive.
to be able to do to. The only thing that's the only thing that's good to be flipped that should be flipped here in Massachusetts,
The burger? I
burgers.
don't. I don't.
That's it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So they don't see like a good return when they do any flipping in Massachusetts.
No, no, it's just because the home values are too, your starting level is too high. So your net gain is the margin is too narrow. You have a
Too
property that
narrow.
needs work. Because there's such a high demand, people won't, the difference between a house that needs a ton of work and the one that is ready to go, and say there's
Mhm.
a $100,000 or $75,000 difference, um, it will cost more than that to make up the difference in the repairs. And even if it costs 75,000, now there's no margin. There's no profit margin.
Yeah.
You know, so it just doesn't.
Yeah,
It's yeah.
that
It's just
makes
it's
sense.
the truth. It says my portfolio is all Sunbelt. Very good. Do you think there's an opportunity in 2025 and the next 5 years? I do. I really, really do. I think that because these builders, because there's so much developmental opportunity down in those regions for new construction, I think that and a lot of those builders press the pause button,
Mhm.
during the pandemic, and especially if we see some new regulations with a new presidential administration that releases some of these or yeah, loosens the grip. These regulations
Mhm.
loosen the grip on builders being able to do what they need to do. Um, I think that as there's more inventory, as that inventory piles up, 100% that'll put downward pressure on the rest of the existing inventory. And I, I foresee a lot of opportunity in those areas. What do you think, Clark?
I agree. I think there'll be a lot of opportunities. It's it sucks to say this, but because there's so many people waiting on the sideline, that this is it. It'll be a perfect time to kind of get into the market and just see what you can get, because everybody's so hesitant to jump in, and this is the moment where you can probably score on houses that are out there that's either been sitting longer or a new construction where they're just trying to unload some of the inventory. Um, so I think it'd probably be a good time to kind of jump in and just see.
I do. I think you just watch. You got to watch watch the opportunity and watch that month supply of inventory. 100%.
Mhm.
Massachusetts. I'm assuming you want to see. Do you want to see the inventory situation? Massachusetts is just terrible. Uh, Negative
50%.
42.5%. Yeah. It for flip. Yeah. No. Yeah. So great info. That's why I saw the MLS, our bare minimum renovation. Yeah. 100%. Buy and hold is always a good thing. Buy decent price if the numbers work with the rents, right?
Mhm.
Then
Yep.
that's a good way to go. It's a good way to go.
Mhm.
Um, it's let's see. All right, I think I finished up with this article here. I thought there was still more on it. It's a fun time. Um, as it says,
I'm
I
like,
search Sheba City only single digit listings. Yeah, it's it's tough. Like I said, I mean, it's Plymouth is doing better on the south coast than even towards the city. If you go
mm,
in and around Boston and Massachusetts and around the surrounding towns, there are single digits,
okay. Oh, wow.
and people are just buying this stuff like bonkers. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
Crazy, crazy, crazy. So,
Right.
you know what? This is a good segue, actually, Clark. It's a good segue because I pulled up an article about the top housing hotspots for 2025. Oh, I love a good segue. I love a good segue. So this article was this data is coming last Thursday. Um, so the National Association of Realtors announced the 10 hotspots, and they, and I'm going to go into what, how they determine these hotspots in a second. It says the important factors, according to Lawrence Yun, who's the chief economist over there at
Mhm.
NAR, and he says important factors common among the top performing markets in 2025 include available inventory at affordable price points, a better chance of unlocking low mortgage rates, higher income growth for young adults, and net migration into specific metro areas. So that caught my attention. I said, oh, this is interesting. So this is in no particular order. This is just an alphabetical order following 10 markets identified as the top performers in 2025 due to their strengths across several indicators. All areas offer favorable financing environment, lower proportions with lower proportions of locked-in homeowners or lower mortgage rates. And in addition, most of these markets outperform the national average in at least
Mm.
6 of NAR's 10 criteria, which I'm going to go to in a second here. So here are the 10, and I was super interested to see this. So this is just alphabetical, so this is not the top, but Boston is on the list. Boston, Cambridge,
Oh, wow.
Newton, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire. I was super surprised to see that. I'll be honest. Charlotte,
Hmm.
Concord, Gastonia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Grand Rapids, Kentwood in Michigan, um, Greenville, Anderson, South Carolina, Hartford, East Hartford, Middletown, Connecticut. I have heard a lot about Hartford and East Hartford this year in
Okay.
Connecticut. It's come up a
How
lot.
was that?
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
No, I haven't heard much about him, but how's that market kind of doing?
Well, there's that Connecticut, Hartford. My daughter actually just graduated from college from University of Hartford, so a
Okay.
little bit like I don't know the area, but I know enough to have enough information to be dangerous, I guess. But it's for me the area, the Hartford area has been say has had tough times, right? It was not
Okay.
a little downtrodden. It's been rough, but it has been seeing some serious revitalization. But because it was suffering for many years, I think there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of opportunity.
Mhm.
So I've seen that come up in a lot of the reports that I'm seeing, the data crunch over the last 6 months as an area that has had a lot of growth, and a lot of opportunity. Um, Indianapolis, Carmel, Anderson, Indiana, Kansas City, Missouri, and Kansas, Knoxville, Tennessee, uh,
Mhm.
Phoenix, Mesa, Mesa or Mesa? What do you say, Clark? Is it Mesa or Mesa?
I would say
Mesa?
Mesa, maybe.
Mesa
Mesa.
probably makes me sound like I'm from New England, for sure. So it's probably Mesa, Chandler, Arizona, and then San Antonio, New Braunfels, Texas. New Braunfels was an area that I've also read about that has had um, some downturns, but in this case, it's going to provide some opportunity. I want to skip right down. It says, here's the methodology for determining that list. It says that they've analyzed the top 2025, identified the 25 housing hotspots by analyzing how each area performs relative to the national level, according to across the following 10 key economic, demographic, and housing factors: the share of locked-in homeowners, the average mortgage rate, the job growth, share of millennial renters who can afford to buy a home. I mean, this all speaks
Mhm.
to our first time homebuyers, right? Net migration to
Yeah.
population ratio, the share of households reaching homebuyer age in the next 5 years, share of out of state movers purchasing a home, share of homeowners surpassing the average length of tenure. And I'm not sure what that means. Share of homeowners surpassing the average length of tenure. People that have been in their house too long. Is that what they're trying to say?
That's what I'm about to say. That's what I'm about to say. Maybe people's been in the house longer than what they usually say before
Maybe.
they kind of want to move.
Well, you know what? Okay, so I can see that where people, if you have an area that where people are just not moving, like people are in their house like 20, 25, 30 years. Um,
Yeah.
the share of starter homes, starter owner occupied units, and home price appreciation. So that's the methodology. This methodology totally caters to the first time home buyer. What do you think?
Yeah, I was going to actually ask you because, of course, I'm not in that Massachusetts market and Boston and everything. Has there been an influx of job growth up there, and has there been a share of, like I said, number four, share of millennial renters who can afford to buy a home?
Mm.
Um, I don't know
So
because
the answer to your
that's
second
interesting.
question about the share of millennial buyers that can afford to buy a home, in our area, 100% has gone through the roof.
Mhm.
My daughter's on the
Oh wow.
list.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
it's just because the cost of rent has gone through the roof, right? It just can't,
Okay.
and they can't even get into a rental. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the I mean, it's gone crazy. I think the median price. I have to check to see what the median price is for the entire state of Massachusetts. I know the median price in Plymouth, which used to be considered a super affordable area, a super affordable town, is
Okay.
now upwards towards like 625,000, which is bonkers.
Wow.
Um, but in terms of your first question about an influx into Massachusetts, the Boston area, in terms of job growth, Massachusetts has
Mhm.
always had a strong job, offering, a strong, a strong job, um, magnetism. I mean, so there's always been with all the hospitals, with the
Okay.
industry, with colleges. We have there's so much, there's so much coming in. There's a lot of people aging out. All the boomers that are aging
Mhm.
out, and then you've got the millennials coming in right behind them. So
Mhm.
there's always that's one of the reasons why we're a little bit more insulated, in our area close to New York City, where we're a little bit
Oh.
insulated because of that, for sure. Um,
Hmm.
does that answer
Yeah,
your
because
question? Does that satisfy your
yeah, no,
curiosity?
it does because I'm like it's so interesting because I don't know if it's up there in your area, but I know down here in this Metro Atlanta area, like you said, in regards to renting, they want you to make like three times the monthly income. Some places maybe it'll give you 2.5 times. So it's like if I'm paying $2,000 a month for my rent, then I have to make 6,000 a month. So it does, I guess, equate to maybe purchase a house if you can, or if you're in that situation to do so. Because if you got to make at least 6,000 a month,
Yeah,
then
that's a great like, um, the what would that be? That would be the ratio
yeah,
of rent to income.
to income.
Uh, I'm making a note on that because I want to dig into that
Mhm.
for a future live stream. I want to research that. That's a great statistic to know it lends to affordability. But like, how does it? I mean, we
Yeah,
talk about all these unaffordable areas, but like, how unaffordable? How
exactly.
unaffordable?
And I look at
You
it all
know?
the time because I'm in the Metro Atlanta area. I look at it all the time because I'm looking at people that are like I had one couple, they rented a house for 2,800 a month. And I'm like, you know how much you have to make a month to qualify for that? And then it also have these other guidelines like, right, your credit score has to be 620 or 630 or 650. And then it's like you have no evictions, no bankruptcies, no. I'm like, am I buying a house here or am I renting? What is going
Seriously,
on? It's so
it used to be like back in the day, back in my day, it was like, can I see your driver's license? Sure. Are you working? Yep. Okay. Here are the keys. Here's where the rent is due. Right? It's just like I don't know. That was the way it was. It feels like a million years ago, but it's just yeah, it's just that and I guess that the rationale is because the demand wasn't that it wasn't anywhere near as high back then.
Yeah.
Now the demand is super high, and landlords can do that. They can get the pick of the
Mhm.
litter, because they can, because they've got so many
Yep.
renters to choose from. Uh, Sam Scott says Florida homeowners are still delusional about home prices, and the selling agents are not doing them any service. Amen. I agree. I agree. That kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, right? With
Mhm.
the fact that if you have a listing agent that doesn't follow the data closely enough, or doesn't interpret the data, or just doesn't inform their client and doesn't educate their
Mhm.
client on what actually is happening. Like, our job is to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to necessarily hear. And
Yep.
I always sit down with folks, and I'm like, listen, this is what it is. I'm going to pull off the band-aid, and I'm not expecting you to
Mhm.
like the data, but I'm going to be I'm going to be upfront and honest with you and transparent. And if that means you don't sell, then that's okay, but you need to know. You need to know,
Yep.
right? And it,
Mhm.
because that's my job, is to make sure that they have
Yep.
the correct information. And I
Exactly.
think so, especially listing agents, real estate agents in general, across the board, right? And I'm sure you would agree with
Mhm.
this. This year has been a tough year, and real estate agents
Yes.
are starving. And I make content all the time about how to spot a lousy agent, how to protect yourself, how to advocate for yourself. It is more important than ever. I can't stress that
Mhm.
enough. It is more important than ever to make sure that you're doing your due diligence with interviewing agents,
Yep.
interviewing three agents, and don't give in to the sweet talk. Don't let an agent that gives you the number that you want to hear and then talk you into, oh no, we definitely, because you have updated countertops, you can definitely get that number that was based on a comparable property from 6 months ago, and you're in a market that has inventory
Exactly.
at 2019 levels. No, no, you got to do
Yeah.
your, you got to, you got to do, you got to do your due diligence, right? That's so
Yeah.
important. It's so important. And next year will be busier, but it's not going to get any better for the real estate agents. The predictions for
Mhm.
next year is 400,000 real estate agents are going to get out of the business, which is
Yeah.
fabulous, fabulous.
Yeah.
Because if the ones that
I
are
was
leaving are
like,
the ones that shouldn't be here anyways. But yeah,
I was
I
like, just
100% agree, Sam Scott, because
like,
they agents are not doing their just them doing the homeowners any justice, and a lot of them are probably struggling with the adjustments, but
I'm
it's
like,
not always.
just like you were saying, I kind of I had talked to a seller, and I another agent came along and gave him a price that was very unrealistic. So of course the seller went with that other agent to list a house, and it was sitting on the market, and then finally it expired, and now it's off the market because that just wasn't the realistic price in that area and for that particular house and the square footage and everything. So yeah, you'll get some, like you said, you'll get some agents that'll come along and they'll give you a number and shoot for the sky, and all I can do is watch from the sideline. So, but
from a buyer's perspective, you just sit back and you just wait. You're like,
Exactly. That's all you
just
do.
wait. I remember doing that. I will do that on occasion. It's like, I mean, ultimately, it's the buyer's decision. If you fall in love with a house and you're willing to pay the price the seller is asking, then that's your decision. Providing the appraisal is successful and all the things. But for buyers that don't want to overpay on the market, whatever the current market is, like it's
Mhm.
easy to feel that every buyer, as a buyer, it's easy to feel like you're overpaying, right? It just because
Yep.
the market went appreciated so fast, like it's starting to
Mhm.
happen, but I think that home buyers across the board are still, you just haven't had a chance to adjust. It's
Yep.
like boiling a frog. I hate to say it. Like,
Mhm.
you put a if you put a frog in a this is kind of a morbid thing. So I apologize if any of and if I anyone listening is like, what is she talking about? But like you put a this but this analogy is used a lot, right? If you put a frog in a pot of water that's at room temperature, they're comfortable. You turn that heat up slowly, right? That water is going to slowly warm up. That frog
Mhm.
won't notice. They won't notice. And before you know it, down the bayou, you're having some frog legs for dinner, right? But if you take that same frog and you have a pot of boiling water, which is what happened during the pandemic, it was microwaved. The water was microwaved.
Yes.
It went from room temp to boiling like that. And then you drop that frog
Mhm.
into that water. What's that frog going to do? Oh, hell no.
Go.
I'm out of here. Like,
Oh,
it's like, well, this is
exactly.
too. And that's the way the market was. Right? That
Mhm.
was the way the market is. And it's
Yep.
hard to like take a step back and be like, oh, I'm okay with slow appreciation. It's going to take years, right? For buyers to
Yeah.
be like,
Adjust.
okay, okay. So, if you're uncomfortable and you see a house that your agent says is probably overpriced,
Mhm.
take a step back, right? Take a step back, take your
Mhm.
time. Don't feel pressured to buy it. Bide your time, you know?
Yep.
Uh, the cost of building in mass is twice as Charlotte, North Carolina. Yes, it is. Yep. And it's going to be
Wow.
interesting to see what happens with um there's so many things that could happen heading into next year because
Yeah. Yeah.
if we do see some tariffs, if that even comes to fruition,
Mhm.
our
Mhm.
number one supplier of lumber is Canada. That is our
Yeah.
number one supplier of lumber. And if that is affected in any way, shape, or form, um, that will likely put builders, builders are not, it's going to cool the market because the builders are not going to be pushed. There's not going to be downward pressure on the prices because they can't. Builders are going to pull back. They're not going to build. Now you have that inventory that's no longer climbing. Now, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Yep.
It has not so good. We have to watch it. Also, much more regulation and longer permit. Yeah, Massachusetts is kind of a pain. It's a pain. Honestly, it is. I completely 100% agree with that, and that's one of the reasons why we don't have as much new construction. Is I mean, especially when
Mhm.
you talk towns like in my town, Plymouth
Okay.
is an old town. It's one of the original America's hometown, right? Um,
Yeah.
our government officials are brutal when it comes to new construction and builders. The hoops that they make them jump through to get a building permit. A lot of
Is
builders
it
just
because your town is like a is it because your town is like a historical type of district per se, or no?
well, I think it's part of that. I think it's because it's also we
Okay.
don't have a mayor. It's still run by town
Oh, you
meeting.
don't have a mayor? Oh,
Nope.
oh
It's
wow.
65,000 residents, right? 102 square
Wow.
miles. But it wasn't every time it comes on the ballot. No, people don't want it. They don't want a mayoral a government in the town, and because of that, maybe not just because of that, but due to the current government structure, right? Um, they don't want to lose what we have turn our town into, lose the quaintness. They protect it fiercely. They approve, you know, building permits, but they're
Mm-hmm.
very particular, and they're very particular in trying to protect, not to strain our tax base. I mean, we've got, two high schools, and then six or seven elementary schools, and two middle schools that all need taxpayer money. But if you start adding in infrastructure support to get that to happen,
Mm-hmm.
how much of a net is it to the town in tax base?
Mm-hmm.
So they're just, it's those types of things they got to be super careful
So
about.
how frequently, I guess, not, so now I'm interested in Plymouth,
Yeah.
Massachusetts, because I'm like, wait, this is interesting. So how frequently do you guys assess like your property taxes? Like in Georgia, they do it once a year. So how do you guys go about assessing property taxes to kind of allocate towards like the school systems?
So the tax base or the tax assessments are reassessed. Honestly, it's on a yearly basis, but
Okay.
the comps, they don't do full value assessments.
Okay.
Sometimes do, right? But it's based on comparable properties, but it's about
Mhm.
2 years behind. It's about 2 years,
Mhm.
about a year and a half behind. So,
Okay.
so that we didn't feel when the prices went through the roof, 21, 22, um,
Mhm.
we're feeling it this year. We're finally feeling
Mm.
it this year.
Okay.
So, but it's also, we're a coastal town. So we
Mm.
have, the coastal erosion issue is real here. That for many property owners that have, waterfront property, there's quite a few, that has had a negative influence. Um,
Mm. Okay.
so it's just interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's interesting.
it's become stretched. It's still more affordable than living near the city, but it definitely has become
Okay.
more stretched, and is the reason why I've been in my house for 24 years and I have no plan on moving.
Yeah.
Because yeah,
Yeah.
it's affordable right now, but we'll
Yeah.
see eventually.
Wow. And then the houses that are on your coastline over there, do they build them similar to how they build them in Florida, where they kind of put them on stilts per se, almost like raise them up so the water can kind of go through the bottom without hitting that crawl space area per se?
Actually, no. Like, it depends. I
Okay.
mean, there are very few that are like that. There are very, very few.
Okay.
So I mean, we have areas where houses are literally on the beach, and they're,
Oh,
and
wow.
those are, elevated. But we don't have
Okay.
because of our overall elevation, we don't have a high water table in the town.
Okay.
So everyone's got basements. Even those
Hmm.
homes that are waterfront, because a lot of
Okay.
them are elevated, have everybody's got basements. Everybody.
Wow.
Everybody's got a
Hmm.
basement,
And the
you know?
basements they don't flood? The
Oh, they
basements
do.
don't
Some of
flood?
them, yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
A lot of them
Okay.
do.
Okay.
So it depends on well, it depends on the topography, if you're downhill
Okay.
versus uphill.
Yeah.
But it also depends on, I mean, we've got a lot of old homes. We've got a lot of old
Mhm.
homes, and uh it's nowhere near like it is in the southern states.
Okay.
Nowhere near, but we don't get a lot of that type of weather. The one thing we do get is, well, we haven't seen that in a while, but we do get, during the winter, nor'easters and blizzards that, when there's a rapid uh, temperature change, and then you get ice damming.
Okay.
So if we get like a foot of snow, and then all of a sudden it jumps up to, 45, 50 degrees, and that snow starts to melt, and then it drops down to 25 degrees, all that
Okay.
water freezes and creates ice dams that actually go in under the shingles into the
Wow.
attic,
Okay.
drips down the front. We had a major issue where we had several years ago where we had a lot of those fluctuations, and ice damming
Mhm.
was a huge problem. So like when we have a foot of snow that is maybe a heavier snow, or we know there's going to be a fluctuation in temperature, everybody's out there with roof
Hmm.
rakes. Everyone. If you don't have a pitch that's sharp, that has a high degree of pitch to get that snow off the
Hmm.
roof, if you have a lower pitch roof, then
Hmm.
you need to get out there and you need to rake your roof and get that snow off the roof, because otherwise you're gonna have major problems. Because once you get water, once you get those ice dam issues, those are no joke. That's a
Yeah.
mess. That's a mess. I mean, that once it gets into your
Yeah.
house, now you
That's
have water running in between, you know,
yeah.
the drywall and studs getting wet, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's it's
That
kind of a
sounds a lot.
nightmare. Yeah, that's fun. Don't you want to live
Yeah.
here? Don't you? So makes you go like, I want to
I
live
don't know if I
there.
can deal with all that. I don't know if I can do it all that.
Yeah, you gotta be a special kind of crazy to live in Massachusetts. I'll be honest. You gotta be a special kind of crazy. Um, let's see. Let's see. AP says that in some cities, for example, Denver, Colorado, implemented new green building codes, which resulted in increased construction costs and made delays. There is a lot of controversy about this stuff, right?
Mhm.
There's a lot of controversy on whether those green building codes are actual legitimate, like have legitimate support. Some of them
Yeah.
are, I think intentions are I think a lot of them the intentions are there, like good intentions are there, but the actual benefit, I think the actual benefit is
Mhm.
way lower than what they're getting sold on. And
Yeah.
I think that these
I think that.
representatives, I don't know, what do you think, Clark? Do you think the representatives of some of these new building technologies go to these town meetings and they change the minds of the folks that are in charge of the regulations and talk them into, sell them on the fact that this
Mhm.
needs to happen and all the things? And I think some of the
Yeah. I'm
regulations are
like,
ridiculous. I think, and I'm all for
I
green
think.
energy. I'm all for green,
Yeah.
environment, all that stuff. But um, it is.
I'm like, I believe when I read it. I read it somewhere that I know the National Home Builders Association was kind of talking about this green building codes and them having, I think, some difficulties of the permitting and different things. Um, so yeah, I don't know. It's so hard because even when I think of, let's just not even say like green building codes, but even like the solar panels on your house too, right? It's like
Oh,
all
solar
these
panels
things
a
are
hot
kind of
topic. Solar panels a hot topic, Clark.
yeah. And it's like I preferably I will tell people don't. Well, even though people like I can do what I want to do, I say don't put them on your house. But that's just my opinion. Just because if you go to sell it in the future, it's just a messy situation, and but I know that that was kind of one of the ways in which it was like, oh, green building per se, creating more energy from
Well,
from solar power, blah blah
okay, so I want to talk about that for a second, because here's the thing: saving money for the sake of saving money is not the best way to go. Like, it's not hands down the best way to go for everybody. Okay, what I mean by that is you got to look at, and people don't, because the solar companies are banging down your door. Oh, your neighbor just put solar panels in. We can do it for free. You want to do it? You'll save money on your electric bill. And the homeowner's
blah.
like, um, okay. Like, they don't do the due diligence. They don't dig into the numbers. They don't dig into the kilowatt usage of their own home and the actual benefit and what the recapture is for those solar panels. I think that if you're living in the right environment, in other words, open air space and your total exposure to the sun is such that not only are you're canceling out your electric bill, but you're feeding the grid. I have an
Mhm.
uncle that lives in Western Mass who, he's an expert in this. He actually used to build and race solar cars, right? He lives off the
Oh
grid,
wow.
right? He's
Okay.
the real deal. Solar works for him.
Oh,
Solar
okay.
works for him. I would love to have solar, but the reality of it is I live in an area where there's a lot of trees,
Mhm.
and my solar capture, because of those trees, is not going to benefit. I might see a small,
Mhm.
I might see a drop in my electric bill, right? 50 bucks a month. And a lot of people think, oh, well, $50 is better than $0 in savings. True. But
Mm-hmm.
what is not only the cost of the solar panels, but to your point,
Yep.
what is the cost to the home integrity? Did that company
Mm-hmm.
put those panels on correctly? How old is the
Right.
roof? What is the impact
Mm-hmm.
on the longevity of that roof? And you're sacrificing, you're affecting the integrity of the roof when you're plugging holes in the roof, right?
And trying
What
to get home
happens if,
insurance on it later.
what's that?
I said trying to get that home insurance later on. Uh,
Yep,
sometimes that's the problem.
100%. And what happens if any of that equipment fails or becomes outdated?
Mm-hmm.
It might be that the amount of electricity that you're generating for your home, yes, it reduces it for today, but it's going to take you 25 years to actually, you know, see the full benefit because of the cost of the system. Because free is not free. There's no such thing as free. They're not giving them to you for free. You're paying for them. You're paying for them because built
Mm-hmm.
in, right? So
Yep.
I think that I think solar panels I think the whole idea for the right person and the right circumstance,
Yeah.
but it's not a hands down thing for everybody. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree.
Um, I wanted to get to the poll. I wish I could pull the
Okay.
poll up on the screen here, but um, so the poll I ran was which states are on the verge of reaching 2019 inventory levels. The three choices are oh, this is going to be interesting, Clark. The first
I
choice
know
is
we're on.
California, Illinois, South Carolina. Second choice, Alabama, Nebraska, Hawaii, and Georgia. Third choice, Kentucky, Iowa, and Indiana. Okay. I wish I could. I wish I should have did a slide or something. But anyways, the poll results are Kentucky, Iowa, Indiana, 27%.
Okay.
Alabama, Nebraska, Hawaii, Georgia, 20%, bottom of the heap. And California, Illinois, South Carolina, 53%. Again, what are which states?
Wow.
These are on the verge of reaching 2019 levels. These are the states this is what everybody thinks the states are next in terms of these levels. So number one choice was California, Illinois, and in Georgia. 53%. 20% voted for Alabama, Nebraska, Hawaii, and Georgia, which was at the bottom of the pack. You are correct. You are correct. The states likely to join that list
Yes.
soon to include Alabama, Nebraska, Hawaii, and your home state, Georgia.
Yes.
And when you mentioned this earlier, that your month supply of inventory is growing, right? Didn't you mention that earlier,
Yep.
or something along those
Yep.
lines? You said that
Yep.
you're seeing more inventory, you're seeing longer home
Mm-hmm.
sale times on the market. That's why you're on the
Mm-hmm.
list.
Yep.
So there you go.
Yeah. We're.
That's I hope that was that's a you know what that's it's interesting because you would think California's not in anywhere near, they're not there yet. And actually this is the if you think like the bubbles bubbling up to the surface.
Yeah.
California's got a way to go. They're still negative
Yeah.
14.4%. North Carolina, all these towns, Connecticut,
Yeah. Connecticut all the way
70%.
down
Woo, they got a ways to go.
there.
But this I thought was interesting because you would think that California a lot with with home prices. I mean, I've referred some folks to in California to listing agents, right? Connected to some of my top
Mhm.
agents out there, and they're having a tough time selling the house or condo, and you would think that the market is shifting, but not as fast as it's what you feel is different than the data. So,
Yeah. Yeah, the
um,
market is definitely trending up. Houses, like I said, houses are sitting longer down here. Inventory is rising down here. Of course, we're having problems even with condo sales down here. I don't look at Georgia as a big condo, especially Metro Atlanta as a big condo place, but there are a lot of condos down here. The condos are definitely sitting longer, and they're getting a little harder to sell too. So,
100%. 100%. Well, uh, Clark, thank you so much for jumping on this live
Hey,
stream.
no problem.
I appreciate you. I always appreciate when you chime in with all your questions. And
No,
if you guys are looking for, you want to get in touch with Clark, Clark the Realtor. That's his last name. That's your last name, actually. People don't know that. They
yes.
think it's your first name. But you'll find out if you reach out to him. You will know the truth.
Mhm.
Down in the Atlanta, you're in Atlanta, Georgia, that area, right?
Yep.
Um,
Hmm.
so you can feel free to reach out to them. And then if you guys have need a referral outside of that area, of course, you fill out the form down below. Again, just a couple different reminders. The Christmas special next week. There will my live stream will not be on Tuesday. I'm going to be joining Jackie Baker. I'm going to live stream that on this channel. We're going to live stream on both of our channels on Monday, next Monday at 7 p.m. So you can catch us there and have some fun with that Christmas special. I keep wanting to. I think of that special that Elvis did, the Christmas special that Elvis did. I don't know why. Maybe my kid's a big Elvis fan, so that's what I keep. There will be no singing. There will be no Elvis. Well, maybe we'll see. You know what? I'm sure his hometown, Memphis, Tennessee, will come up in conversation at some point in time. So
Yep.
we'll see. But hey, Clark, as always, my friend, thanks for taking time out of your busy day and this busy holiday season to sit and chat with me for an hour or so. And I appreciate everybody on the live stream, all your contributions in the chat and conversation. Really appreciate it. I want to wish everybody happy holidays. Hopefully I'll see you at this Christmas special next week. And if I don't, have a happy holiday. So right, Clark, the Realtor.
Happy holiday.
Have,
Yes.
have a happy holiday and be good, be kind, look out for your neighbor, and have a great week. And have some jazzy music. Here we go. Take care, everyone.